Okay, so welcome to this presentation. My name is Peter Nyström, and today we have StrongPoint with us, and we have the CEO, Jakob Tverrbok. So please, the floor is yours, Jakob.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to yet again present StrongPoint. We can go to the next page, please. A little bit about StrongPoint. We like to say we are an efficiency-obsessed grocery retail technology company. We provide both in-store and e-commerce solutions tailored for grocery retailers with spillover effects to other verticals, but grocery retail is our sweet spot. We have our own proprietary both hardware and software, and we partner with some of the world's leading third-party suppliers to provide our grocery retail customers with cutting-edge technology. You can go to the next page. Very quickly about sort of some facts and figures. We have or had about 1 billion NOK revenue last year and 70 million EBITDA. Today we have a very positive cash position of more than 200 million, following the divestments of two non-core business areas, the labels business and the cash security business. So today we have about 400 employees in 6 countries and partners beyond those countries in the rest of or the majority of European countries and North America. And you will see our retail technology solutions in more than 20 countries across Europe and North America. When we are talking about StrongPoint, we typically like to start talking about the double opportunity for StrongPoint. And interestingly, with the rise of e-groceries, that is really putting speed to these two opportunities. So the rise of e-grocery means for our established players 2 things. One, the brick and mortars are coming under increasing margin pressure. And the reason is simply that more and more of the volumes that historically have been going close to 100% through the stores, more and more of that grocery revenue is going outside the stores. And so with a top line that is not growing as much as it has historically, although costs with labor, rent, electricity is increasing, that is creating that margin pressure. And the solution to that margin pressure really is technology solutions, and we like to believe StrongPoint technology solutions to make the stores more efficient. The other piece that e-groceries trigger is the need for established players. Some of them may be slow, but the need for them to both venture into and to grow their e-grocery sales. And again, as we will see, StrongPoint offers the full range of e-commerce logistics solutions from picking to delivery to the customers and everything in between in a very, very efficient manner. And we believe we have some nuggets of solutions here that are worth a global market, as we'll see. To give a little bit more glance of what the solutions are, on the left-hand side here, you will see some of the store solutions. This being self-checkout solutions, fully proprietary, both software and hardware. Similar with Vensafe, the tobacco or high-value item dispensing solution. Or cash management solution, where we have a significant installed base in Norway and Sweden, and not least in southern parts of Europe and Spain in particular, where cash is still growing, being the main source of payment. We also have third-party corporations on electronic shelf labels, on task and labor management tools, which is important to ensure the labor cost in stores are as efficient as possible or as low as possible. And we also have a very exciting partnership with a Norwegian humanoid robot company called Halodi Robotics, where we are developing together with Halodi humanoid robots to be used in a store environment to substitute human labor for or with humanoid robots on what we would call repetitive and boring tasks. So very exciting there to make sure these store costs are as lean as possible. On the right-hand side here, we have our e-commerce solutions, and I will be going a bit more in detail on all of these later. But what I can say is that we offer the full range of the picking possibilities there are in the market, as well as the last mile opportunities there are in the market, whether it's home delivery, pickup in store, or drive-through. So you can go to the next page, please. Thank you. When we talk about our strategy, we like to talk about that as a T. And so in the stem of the T, you will find the core markets of StrongPoint, where we have our own offices with a full set of employment staff that handles both sales, pre-sales, installation, service, and support. That is Norway, Sweden, the 3 Baltic countries, and Spain. So in these countries, we offer the full range of our proprietary solutions, as well as the third-party solutions from Halodi, Pricer, Reflexis, etc. On top of the T, you'll see we have signed or singled out 3 solutions or 3 solutions areas in which we believe there is a European or even global potential. First and foremost is our e-commerce portfolio, or a grocery e-commerce portfolio. And again, I will double click on that somewhat later today. Our self-checkout solution, where we have a starting point coming from the Baltics, being the majority leader in self-checkout solutions. And also in cash management, where yes, we have a big, expecting to shrink the installed base in Norway and Sweden. That's without a doubt. But the amount of cash being used in the Mediterranean countries is still more than 50%. So that's a market we'd really like to tap into. And to put some numbers on the financial ambitions behind this T-shaped strategy, we have and are reiterating our 2.5 billion Norwegian kroner revenue in 2025 with a financial bottom line in terms of EBITDA of 13 to 15%. And the way we believe we can do this, you can go to the next page. The way we believe we can do this is illustrated on this waterfall. And first and foremost, you will see the e-commerce logistics contribution to the 2.5 billion being very significant. So hence the remaining of this presentation, I will spend to double click on that. The other notable thing to see on this page is the substitution of non-core assets that we have divested into retail technology solutions through M&A. And that could come and will come as a combination of geographic expansion to countries where we see a natural product market fit. And we have earlier said, and I can repeat again, we've said that this is most likely to be UK, Denmark, maybe even also Finland in the short to medium term. And on the technology side, we are continuously exploring opportunities to both strengthen our e-commerce solutions portfolio, but also ensure that we have a rich portfolio that is in line with the market demand and trends. So those are two of the most important things. Beyond that, we're expecting a nice and steady growth in all the solutions areas that we offer. So now allow me to double click on e-commerce. That is a hot potato nowadays, and increasingly so we see that in with the rise of the Omicron virus. I can say that sitting from my home office here in Norway. So double clicking on e-commerce. What we're seeing here is a illustration of how e-commerce plays its role in the store, but also outside the store with our solutions. So starting with the way that you want to get the order of groceries fulfilled. Well, you have to do the picking somehow. And we have the solutions that offer both in-store picking, illustrated here by the online order picking solution. We have, and I'm kind of proud to say that we have an amazing solution that offers productivity levels that we are not seeing anywhere else. We're achieving on average with our clients 240 items per hour picking rate, 240. Whereas a lot of the management consulting companies are operating with picking rates in store of less than 100, maybe even closer than to 90. We're also doing that in conjunction with the electronic shelf labels, so we're enabling a pick by flash to increase the picking efficiency even more so. On top of that, we have during the last quarter also announced our partnership with the Norwegian success story AutoStore. So illustrated here as automated fulfillment on the upper right-hand corner. We, as StrongPoint, were the first grocery-specific partner of AutoStore worldwide. We believe that is because AutoStore also realizes that grocery orders to be fulfilled is very demanding. It's very demanding not only because there are 3 temperature zones, but predominantly because there's many SKUs with an extreme volume. And we believe that playing with the automated fulfillment solutions that AutoStore offers and our own order picking solution, we have the opportunity to create a really strong offering to our customers. So that's picking. Then the groceries typically need to be delivered as well. So what you will see here is a range of the opportunities that our customers, the grocery retailers, can choose from, all depending on their geography, location, and not least the maturity of the e-commerce level. So in-store pickup, illustrated here as well, is typically where you want to start with low volumes. You will then typically rapidly move into grocery locker last mile solutions, illustrated here both with stationary lockers close to the store, as well as mobile grocery lockers that we were one of the first in the world to introduce to the market. And that is, of course, in addition to the natural default in many countries, namely home delivery. And it should be said then, since we're talking to a Swedish crowd here as well, what the Swedish players have been able to do, i.e. making grocery e-commerce customers come to the store to pick up groceries, and that being the most frequently used way of picking up groceries, more than 50% actually, we're trying and working with customers to make sure that they can do exactly that. So leveraging the stores for pickup. The last bit on this picture is what we call here courier home delivery, or Q-commerce, which is really a hot topic nowadays in the market. And as companies have, or investors having followed StrongPoint will have noticed, we announced in February a very unique partnership with Glovo, the Spanish unicorn present in more than 20 countries, we made a partnership with Glovo for them to use our picking solution in the stores, and that being part of the offering to the established players when they create partnerships. And we're seeing a lot of attention both from established players as well as Q-commerce players to replicate exactly that. So very exciting to see there. Then we can move to the next page. And I want to talk a little bit about the market size and the market at play here. And sometimes it's just, relevant to remind ourselves of where is groceries in the e-commerce space. This is US data, but it's very relevant regardless for any European country. And that is that, grocery e-commerce are and have been at a sort of extremely low penetration compared to other types of retail verticals. Yes, it's been low because of complexity. Yes, it's been low because of lower gross margin than you typically have in some of these other categories. But the point is that e-groceries is growing. It will continue to grow in strength. And that is just the way gravity works. It will be increasing. So if you are a grocery retailer today and you have flourished even without e-groceries, well, that is not going to stand very much longer. And we both believe and see that our customers and customer prospects realize exactly that. So then moving on to the next page, when we start talking about what is the addressable market, and maybe we're a bit conservative here. But if you purely look at the software licenses related to delivery and picking, in the markets we operate, or we define as our core markets, we're seeing there's a 5.7 billion kroner annual recurring revenue from software licenses. This is going to grow by just shy of 20% to 12.5 billion. StrongPoint, of course, with its starting point from Sweden, would like to see this not just growing with market share, but growing well beyond the market share growth that we're seeing here. And similarly on hardware investments in click and collect, I could say that out of the 650 million sales in the target markets we have defined, we have about, or have had about 10 to 12% market share. We're expecting this to grow by more than 35% annually up until 2025. So key point being, we are in a addressable market which is growing rapidly, and we absolutely have the product, and we're increasingly now having the team in place to deliver exactly this to a market in high demand of e-commerce logistics solutions for groceries. I want to roll up 2 pages, and one of these pages is about Oda. As a Norwegian-based company, we typically get lots of questions about Oda. Personally, I'm also kind of fond of Oda because I was in the board of Oda in its early days, and they're doing amazing, right? I think all credits to them for having attracted both SoftBank and Prosus funding, becoming one of the first, if not the first, unicorn out of Norway. And I say this to the investor community typically, that Oda in a way is our best friend. They're really putting pressure on the established players to get moving on e-groceries. Just earlier this month, Oda did exactly what they've said they will, namely going into Finland. So they announced their soft launch in Finland, and they are in 2022 getting into Germany as well. And I don't think any serious grocery retail player in Europe, or at least Northern Europe, can ignore Oda. So having the experience we have, being in a region-based company, actually knowing Oda also from the inside, having been in the Swedish market, fendering off the competition of Oda, I think is something our established customers and customer prospects really are are appreciating when we're discussing e-commerce logistics solutions. So then to round things off, and I know Petter have a few questions. Some final thoughts. Number one, the market is growing basically on both in-store solutions because of the margin pressure being created by e-commerce, and not least on the e-groceries. It will grow. That's just the way it goes, and that is basically gravity. It will continue to grow. It's not stopping. There is also today in the market a pressure on supply chains generally. And StrongPoint, we are also we're not immune to that. In Q3, we highlighted some of the challenges the supply chain have had on our cash management sales that we announced back then would be continuing into Q4. Although we're expecting this to be of temporary nature. And lastly, we are today, even though we haven't recently announced any big rollouts, we have today a record high number of proof of concepts and pilots rolling across Europe and across North America. So that makes us all very, very prosperous about the future, and not least the reaching the 2025 ambitions we've set forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jakob. Thank you. So I'll start with a couple of questions here. And regarding the rise here of the grocery e-com sales, can you share some light here on which markets you are currently most optimistic about, and which markets you are feeling that the e-com development is moving too slowly? Thank you.
Sure. So if you're thinking about the markets that are most prosperous about, it would have to be some of the markets basically mentioned already where we're exploring international growth, namely UK, Denmark. We're also now exploring the Benelux countries, Germany as well, following also what's happening with Oda, and not least also the fact that we recently announced a partnership with the German company Hörmann Logistics on the AutoStore side, effectively covering then the DACH region and also Eastern Europe. So, there are lots of countries here in which there is high demand for our solutions, and where we're seeing this come out in proof of concept and pilots. I think when you, Petter, asking about why is it so slow, I think, and maybe that's just me interpreting the question. I guess you're referring to Norway.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's probably some markets where you could, hope for that the development had been moving even faster than it actually currently is.
Yeah, and I think to a large extent, if you may use Norway as an example, I think the reason for that is, and this is just not Norwegian specific, but it's specific for many countries, is that in the marketplaces where you do have 3, 4, or maybe even in some cases 2 players that are very dominant, rather than normal economics playing out, it's really a game theory, right? And we've seen traditionally that there's been a challenge in reaching the profitability in e-groceries versus store economics, which have naturally prevented some of the major players from venturing into e-groceries. But there are 2 things to say about that. Number one is we have proven over and again with many of our customers that e-grocery profitability is absolutely possible. And number 2 is there is no longer a choice. I mean, this is happening very fast now, as illustrated with some of the pure players being venture capitalists backed by some of the major, or actually the major technology investors in the world. So it will continue and will happen at some point in time.
Perfect. Thank you. Then I think we have time for one more question. I mean, over the past 6 months, you have announced several very big orders here, particularly for your Norwegian business. I mean, electronic shelf labels, cash guard systems. Can you talk a little bit about, the business mix, in terms of product sales versus, more, call it recurring revenue, a lot like service revenues, and how you see that developing over the next 5 years?
Sure. So where to start? I think first and foremost, if comparing these different solutions we have, I mean today our core, the core of our revenue is coming from what you call in-store solutions, right? And the e-commerce solution, depending on which quarter you're looking, is varying between 10 to 13, or have 10 between 10 and 30% of the total revenue. So as you're pointing out, the solutions that we're offering in store is very important for us now, and will continue to be so, although we see that most of the growth coming from e-commerce. In terms of revenue mix, we haven't to date singled out what are really the sort of ARRs. We will do that, but I cannot disclose that now. But we will do that. But surely, I mean, if you take in a combination of the, we're mixing a little bit apple and pears here, but if you take in a combination of service, support, licenses, and everything, about the 1/3 of the business we have today is recurring. But I will be returning to that in our strategy update session and the Q4 results. We will provide investors with even more insight into what is really recurring and software-driven revenue.
Okay. By that, Jakob, I think we thank you for a very nice and an interesting presentation. And then we are ready for the next presentation in about 3 to 4 minutes. So thank you, Jakob.
Thank you, Petter.